speaking about what are the challenges that we are facing. Because we all know that we are time poor. So in terms of kind of how much are we getting through the day, we're facing an energy crisis. The things that you want to do in 2016, have you got the energy to do it?
And we see it. We see it in terms of worldwide global trends. People are sicker than ever. We have the highest rates of hypertension globally here in South Africa, one of the highest rates of obesity, and that's driving non-communicable disease, which is the leading cause of death and disability and one of the highest costs to any organization. So this conversation, it's a nice to have. It's nice to feel good, but it's incredibly important if we want to look at organizational bottom line and productivity and performance, because it's having a deep impact there.
So the three challenges: you're time poor, we know that. The second thing is that you don't change your behavior very easily. So in terms of looking at personality, I'll speak about the Enneagram a little later, very from a helicopter perspective. But you are what you are, and you've tried to introduce new habits and new ways of being, but it's not easy to do that. So how do you do the tiny habit approach is the few techniques we will share today.
It's very hard to teach others to master what it is we'd like them to do if we're not able to master ourselves. And we know that we have a lot of influence by virtue of who we are and standing on the platform. We know that energy is contagious. So we can do that for the better or potentially for the worst. The performance pyramid takes a look at different dimensions. So physical energy, which then supports our ability to manage our emotional energy and well-being, which then allows for mental clarity, which then drives self-actualization or spiritual performance. What we would like to highlight, though, is in the work that we do, we work with a lot of high-performing individuals. So we present at many business schools, for instance. So working with people who clearly have high IQ, probably high EQ, but it doesn't matter what strengths and talents you have in those dimensions if you don't have the basic energy to get out of bed in the morning, or the ability to bounce back after you've had a couple of stressful weeks and maybe done a road show and been traveling a lot. So managing that fundamental base of the performance pyramid is incredibly important in terms of sustaining and supporting high performance. So the framework that Joni and I do and use is the FAB Quotient, which is an acronym for fuel, activate and behave. So fuel takes a look at how do you feed your body and your brain. Activate looks at how you activate your body as well as your brain. And then behave takes a look at how you relate not only to yourself, so understanding your strengths and playing to those, but also then how you arrive and act authentically and collaborate powerfully, not just with your audiences from the platform, but also leading up to that and then beyond that in terms of work.
So there's good news and bad news. The good news is that you cannot change your personality. So thank you, Mum, Dad, and the ancestors. You came out of your mum's tummy a personality or a temperament. So the fulcrum on that seesaw is your emotional quotient, which is your self-management. So there are 5 pillars to emotional quotient. And Celynn spoke about, are you thinking at the end of the day about how did I feel today? And we are not perfectionists. So, Cyrus spoke about Clicker, her dog, but yes, she probably plays with Clicker as much as she drinks the same stuff. There's a balance in her life. I am certainly not a perfectionist either in the way that I eat. I do 80% of the time not have sugar or bread or that kind of thing, but then I do, go to parties and have a good time too. So that's understanding me, Joni, but then we have to work together. So we may be the same personality style, Celynn and I, but we are vastly, vastly different. In Enneagram terms, we've got different wings, we look at our instincts quite differently, we have different ways of being in life. So how do I collaborate with someone where I bring out her strengths? She's of a slightly different generation, so she's technically savvy, I'm technically deficient. How do we bring out each other's strengths? How do we make that emergence effect of 2 people working together? So if you look at your EQ, that is the way you can self-manage. And the Enneagram as a tool is often called a tool of compassion, because we are so different from one another. So did I really understand the other person's perspective? If you want to know your Enneagram style, please just go onto the Enneagram Institute website. That's who we are associated with in New York. And they are the people who gave us the permission to put the Enneagram Quest into our book. It's the first ever that they've ever done, in 20 years allowed authors to do that.
So there is so much research to show that micro bursts of activity, so little activations regularly throughout the day, are incredibly powerful.
Michael, no touching, no touching, no touching. I just said eye contact at this stage, okay? 2 elbow taps, 2 elbow taps, 2 knee taps, 2 knee taps, 2 ankle to ankle, and find another partner. Thank you, Simone. Find another partner.
And what happens is that when you have a dip, the reptilian part of the brain, so the amygdala, or just to simplify it, is I call that part my lizard. My lizard has a name and an outfit, and we get on quite well sometimes. So your lizard will hijack your wizard. So the front of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that is incredibly important for creative thought, for focus, for the ability to remember, to problem solve, that doesn't work as effectively when your lizard is having a party. How do we shift that though? A lot of us understand the theory and the unintended consequences of the things that we do. It doesn't mean that we change.
So, as your way in. So don't do everything. Just find one specific tiny habit that you want to anchor, and then be cognizant of the others. So if it becomes a daily practice, in what way have I fueled, in what way have I activated, in what way have I behaved?